Now, while Jesus was in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, reclining at the table, a woman came with an alabaster jar of costly aromatic oil made from pure nard. After breaking open the jar, she poured it on his head. Some who were present indignantly said to one another, "Why this waste of expensive ointment? It could have been sold for more than 300 silver coins and the money given to the poor." So they spoke angrily to her. But Jesus said, "Leave her alone. Why are you bothering her? She has done a good service for me. For you will always have the poor with you, and you can do good for them whenever you want. But you will not always have me. She did what she could. She anointed my body beforehand for burial. I tell you the truth, wherever the gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." Then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went to the chief priests to betray Jesus into their hands. When they heard this, they were delighted and promised to give him money. So Judas began looking for an opportunity to betray him.
Welcome again to the meditations on the steps of Jesus throughout Holy Week. As we have seen, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday were busy days for Jesus. The coming into Jerusalem on Sunday, and going down the road and engaging the crowd, which was uplifting, which was a spiritual event, and an embrace of love by the people, but it was exhausting. And then he went to the temple, looked around, left, but the next day he came back. Big time in which he spent talking with the Pharisees, and just a jam-packed day full of things. And Tuesday was a very big day as well. But now we come to Wednesday. This is the fourth day of Holy Week, and Jesus decides to rest. And sometimes we just need rest after a big campaign like that. We have to find time to renew ourselves and find a different way of focusing our attention, our direction, clear our heads, find that spiritual resource in us that we get from God through prayer and meditation. So Jesus is spending the day there with people that he knows, people that have followed him. He knows Simon the leper, where he is staying at. So this is not uncommon for Jesus to slip away and find this bit of rest. And this is the way the events happened. Now, while Jesus was in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, reclining at the table, a woman came with an alabaster jar of costly aromatic oil from pure nard. After breaking open the jar, she poured it on his head. But some who were present indignantly said to one another, "Why this waste of expensive ointment? It could have been sold for more than 300 silver coins and the money given to the poor." So they spoke angrily to her, but Jesus said, "Leave her alone. Why are you bothering her? She has done a good service for me. For you will always have the poor with you, and you can do good for them whenever you want. But you will not always have me." She did what she could. She anointed my body beforehand and before my burial. Wherever the gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. And then Mark goes on to say, then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went to the chief priests to betray Jesus in their hands. When they heard this, they were delighted and promised to give him money. So Judas began looking for an opportunity to betray Jesus. These are two quite different events put together in order to strike the contrast between someone who has such affection and love and faith in Jesus, and one who was disappointed and cynical in regards to what Jesus was doing. He wanted much more action, most likely. And Jesus just simply was disappointing him on what he wanted to do, and the fact that he was going to die. And he explained that probably was something that turned Judas from the path of walking with Jesus. But let's go back to this first story, the woman. She's in the house, and they're at table, reclining. And this is a common pattern. Probably talking, eating. And she comes over to Jesus and opens it, I think, a brand new jar of ointment, perfume. 300 silver coins, that's quite a bit of money. Perfume was very expensive in those days. And she opens it and pours it on Jesus' head. Now, my guess is this, is that she rubbed it into his hair, maybe on the back of his neck or something. Now, it was very common for people, guests especially, when they came into the house, to have, you should have a bowl of water so that they can wash their feet, the dust off their feet, and you have a little oil in a container up by the door, and they could rub it in their hair so it smells nice, gives it a sheen, and just makes a person, I guess, feel better. But she goes beyond this. And she does this, Jesus said, because she has recognized something that the others do not recognize. She's preparing him for his burial. She most likely is someone that has heard Jesus say on occasion that he is going to come to Jerusalem and the leaders will execute him and he will die. And this saddens her. And she wants to do something very special for Jesus. And this is what she thinks that she can do for him. But the disciples and the people around, we don't know exactly who was around there. They did not take kindly to her wasting the product that could be sold to give to the poor. Now, this is not a bad thing to do. This is a good thing to do. But what Jesus is saying, you just don't understand the moment. And that's oftentimes what we miss. We have such agendas. We have single focus. And we think anything that we can do for the poor is the right thing to do. And this is a waste. But sometimes we just have to understand the moment. And that gives breath to life. It helps us all see that people are paying attention, People have an interest in me and in the world and others. So this is very important. In spirituality especially, one of the first rules of the development of our spiritual life is paying attention to the everyday things in life and paying attention to the movement of the events of the world. She did, and she addressed it with passion and love and affection. And Jesus just appreciated that and just tried to say to the disciples, look, she knows the time. She's been paying attention. You guys forgot how to pay attention to what's going on. This is not normal time. It's sort of like what we are in right now. This is not normal. So we need to pay attention to the things around us in order to make our life and the life of others just a little bit better, a little bit more interesting by showing interest. So that was her. A very tender story. And Jesus even says at the end of this, for years to come, people will be telling her story because she gets it. She gets it. She paid attention. Now, the second story, which is the contrast here, isn't it? There's an irony going on in the way that Mark presents this story. A very tender story, and now a very evil story, where Judas decides to sell Jesus out. This is a great irony of contrasting stories put together. And life is sort of like that. There's an ambiguity to life. It isn't a straight line all the time. It isn't just, follow the road map and we'll get here. Sometimes you got to take a little side trip, or things just don't turn out the way that they're supposed to. Life is filled with these kinds of things. And Mark is saying that this contrast here is necessary to help us decide what to do in life. Are we going to be like this woman who affectionately pours perfume over Jesus' hair? Are we going to be like the disciples and all of those sitting around being angry that she wasted money? Or are we going to be like Judas? When things don't go our way, we get cynical and angry and mad, and we turn our back on the very thing that we once cared about and loved. These are wonderful stories that took place in the time when Jesus was resting and preparing for the next day. And that's where we're going to go tomorrow, is to this day filled with ominous portents, just darkness. There doesn't seem to be a lot of light. A lot of heaviness is going to be felt by everyone connected with Jesus. But even then, there is this spring of hope constantly moving, because Jesus is in the world and standing in the midst of the crowd. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to listen. And we will see you very soon. And I'll see you tomorrow for Maundy Thursday. Amen.